Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Apex Online Racing. We're really heading towards the business end of the championship now. Just 5 races remaining, and it's a circuit that has seen plenty of championship deciders over the years. It is the Suzuka circuit in Japan for the Japanese Grand Prix. My name is Luke Etheridge. Alongside me, once again, in the commentary box is Kieran McGinley. Kieran, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, actually. How is yourself, Luke? We're heading towards Suzuka, and we're getting into that sort of crunch time of the season. Domi versus Blizzard, Williams versus Haas, and whilst that championship gap looks a little bit too hard to handle for Blizzard, I mean, he's still got a handful of races. He's still mathematically in with a title shoutout. But good evening, everybody. Hopefully you're ready here for the Japanese Grand Prix in Apex Online Racing. And while the championship can't be decided tonight, it could certainly be all but decided.
Yes, definitely. As it stands at the moment, after Domi took the victory last time out in Russia, amazingly, the first time all season we've had anyone win consecutive races after his win at the Singapore Grand Prix. He is now on 279 points. Blizzard has 210 points. You have Gil on 163, Aero on 159. He is still mathematically in the championship, but he has to win the last 5 races, so any realistic chance obviously has gone out of the window. It is a lot closer though in the constructors, with Williams just 3 points ahead of Haas. And as Kieran said, the Drivers' Championship can't be decided today, but if Domi wins the next 2 races here in Japan and next week at USA, he will win the Drivers' Championship. And you've got to say, in the form he's in, that wouldn't be too surprising.
No, it wouldn't. It really wouldn't. And, it could be all but decided coming into this one. However, we've still got a lot of races to go, a lot of races to handle as we head into this closing stage of the season. Of course, we've got Japan here tonight. Then we've got the USA, Mexico, Brazil, and then the finale in Abu Dhabi. But as every race passes, if the Blizzard doesn't get the right results, the odds will be ever stacked against him race after race. And there's only so much and so long that you can hang on to a championship battle, and if Domi can get himself a good result, he can get one hand on that trophy at least.
Yes, and Blizzard pretty much said as much in his interview last week. He's not really thinking about the championship now. He's just concentrating really on doing the best performances he can. He knows even if he does win the next 5 races, he's got to rely on mistakes from Domi to really have a chance of the championship. But we are underway in qualifying. It's looking very overcast around the Suzuka circuit. Rain is never too far away in this part of the world. And let's go forward with Dario then, as he takes us for a lap of this track. First news in 1987, heading downhill ever so slightly into the first corner. A very tricky corner here as you then brake for turn 2 as well. The car wanting to get away from you and wanting to run wide. And then the S section, a supreme test in the downforce of any Formula 1 car and of a driver's skill as well. How careful can they be feathering the throttle and the brake pedal to make sure they've got the optimal grip? Heading uphill now through the Dunlop curve, heading towards some of the toughest corners in Formula 1. 2 Degners, fast right-hander for turn 8, and then a second Degner at turn 9. Watch out for that gravel trap on the exit, which could easily catch you out. Dario just getting a bit of wheel spin there as he now heads into the hairpin at turn 11. Won't see too many overtakes there in the race, but there's always someone who feels pretty brave and might just send a move down the inside if they're feeling like they're being held up. Through the long right-hander at turn 12, into spoon curve then. Very similar layout to the first corner here, and again, you need to be nice and careful on the second apex of this corner as you get a long run downhill ever so slightly, just approaching the crossover point as you go over the grid for the west part of the Suzuka circuit, over the crossover point and up to the 130R. Used to be a fearsome corner in a modern Formula 1 car. The downforce so powerful. It's now just an easy left-hander into the final chicane then. The Casio Triangle pit entry on the right-hand side. No bump for the drivers to contend with this season. And Dario set to 126.264. Very respectable lap from him. He'll be happy just to have a bank of him because it is easy to get it wrong around this circuit. And as it's still got that sort of old-fashioned Formula 1 quality, it's very easy if you do make a mistake to end up in the gravel or even worse in the barriers.
Yeah, and the really defining feature about this circuit, figure of 8, set up as a Honda test track originally before it was converted then to a racetrack for everybody to use. And yes, as you can see, there's grass and there's gravel. There's not many places that have a tarmac runoff, as I just saw Dario there tackle those Degner curves. And their Degner curves are great. You know, they bank towards the apex of the corner and obviously allow you to carry that little bit of speed in, but it's so easy to overcommit through those 2 curves there. It's so easy to do that you might run wide going through Degner 1, and if you do run wide, there's that gravel trap to catch you out. So it's a very unforgiving circuit if you get it wrong. Once you get into the flow of this circuit, you'll find that you'll love this track for sure.
Yes, definitely. We've got Domi then on a hot lap at the moment, just trying to make sure he works his way through the traffic at this moment in time. He had Coutinho and Aero not too far ahead of him. He's really stepped up his game lately. His consistency has always been fantastic. He was picking up good points positions without always finishing on the top step of the podium, but the last 2 races he's just done what he needs to. Rely on Blizzard to maybe pick up a few penalties and then just make sure you're either just ahead of him or just behind him and take a nice straightforward victory, really.
Well, you'd like it to be that way. Domi would like it to be that way as he heads his way towards the line. DRS wide open as he crosses the line. 25.7 from the championship leader and puts himself on provisional pole position, at least for now, as Boss goes second fastest, 26.0. As they're going 3 wide down the straight already in this one. You're not racing yet, guys. That's still around about 12 minutes away, but just trying to find yourself some space out here can prove a little bit tricky. Obviously, it's a long, you get lots of corners here that are medium speed, so aero is so key around a circuit like Suzuka. The only DRS zone on the track down towards turn 1, I believe, is the shortest DRS zone, or at least one of the shortest DRS zones on the race calendar. And because there's only the one DRS zone down one of the longest straights on this track, going and overtaking around this circuit is much more difficult than anybody gives it credit for. The main overtaking opportunity is in towards the hairpin at turn 13. I mean, if you can get yourself up the inside there, bit of a Kamui Kobayashi move, if you like, heavy braking zone. It's really the heaviest braking zone on the circuit. So if you're going to see overtakes, it's going to be at the hairpin, and even then, it's tricky to get that done.
Yes, definitely. We just saw Coutinho actually trying to get past some traffic at the hairpin. He wasn't finding it that easy indeed. Just Sam Gamer getting in the way, and there was a bit of lag there from Coutinho. He suddenly teleported backwards about 50 feet, which is never ideal. It's Domi fastest at this moment in time. Boss is second. Dario in third, and Domi will be pretty happy starting from pole position here because it is not an easy circuit to make an overtake on.
No, it is just not, and it's narrow as well, and that just adds to the challenge. So getting a good qualifying position here is critical, and it will help you in the long run get a position up on the board. Coutinho then 35.0, not a representative lap time on those tyres there, so it looks like he's going to go again as he now makes his way in towards turns 1 and 2. And the great thing about turn 1 is you ride on board with a driver. They actually don't brake until they're pretty much past turn 1 and going in towards turn 2, and even then you're having to trail brake to slow the car down and find the apex in towards turn 2, and then you head your way through that snaking section through the S's, and then you get your way towards the Dunlop curve onwards towards the Degner curves of Degner 1 and Degner 2. And just seeing Coutinho there, he's gone 5 seconds quicker through the first sector alone. That's better than his last lap time, not better than the best. I mean, if we're expecting a 21 here, that's even on a chance there. So we'll have to wait and see how that is going on. But meanwhile, Domi leading the way. Boss is in second place. Dario, of course, in third place. He'll be making his way back towards the pit lane. Those skies there look very, very grey indeed. Hopefully that rain holds off.
Yes, hopefully it will. And it's always a risk around this circuit. We've seen so many times in real Formula 1 qualifying actually having to end up on a Sunday around this circuit just because of that risk of rain on the Saturday, and it is a big possibility in a game because of the nature of the circuit. Barriers never that too far away, and neither is the grass or the gravel trap. It is always extremely difficult. We've got the two Alfa Romeos going on a lap at this moment. Sam Gamer just coming around the final few corners. A decent qualifying last time out from, well, more than a decent qualifying from Sam Gamer. We got pole position. You can't really do much better than that. It just all seemed to go a bit wrong for him in the race. Got held up in the pits, and we seem to say this every week. He's definitely got pace. He just seems to pick up a few penalties, and when the field's as close as it has been, that's bound to cause problems.
It is, but that's the nature of a narrow track like Suzuka. It's, you know, you've got to get yourself a good qualifying lap time. If you come across any traffic, well, dirty air is already an issue going in towards these cars because they produce such a lot of downforce and such a lot of dirty air behind the cars. You add them to a track that has a reliance, and you know, you've got to have a lot of high aero to get yourself through these medium speed corners. That exacerbates that dirty air issue. If you come across a car, even if you can see it, you know your lap is ruined by the amount of dirty air that they've left behind, even if they're 5 seconds up the road even. So you've got to really focus, get yourself that space out on track and look to try and get the best lap time possible. So we shall see how it all goes. But Domi still on provisional pole position with 8 minutes to go in the session. He's currently out on an out lap, back out on a set of fresh soft tyres to see if he can get a better lap time on the board. I am expecting low 25s in this qualifying session, so there's still more time to find.
Yes, definitely. Dario trying to find a bit more time at the moment. The McLaren driver coming around the final corner. What can he do? 125.686. Pretty good improvement from him. And he actually ran out of ERS ever so slightly heading towards the finish line. So you get a feeling there might still be a bit more time in there if he really could find it, if he could just nail that ERS, and that is always important. Track evolution, as always, is important in qualifying, and if anything, these are probably ideal qualifying conditions. You haven't got that sun heating up the track because it is quite a heavy tyre wear circuit, unsurprisingly, given all the medium speed corners. But this is probably just ensuring that the tyres are lasting until the end of the lap.
Yeah, and that's an ideal time, but you've got to remember as well that although the tyres might not heat up as much, will there be enough heat in the tyres to make sure that they're at optimum operating temperature to give you that best amount of grip, the optimum amount of grip around the circuit? You know, you've got to try and balance those out as best as you can. But Dario, just as we were talking there, Luke, has set a faster lap time, 25.6. That now puts him on provisional pole position. We've got Desso, who's out there on an out lap right now. We'll see what he can do later on in this session. Coutinho, though, 35.0, an unrepresentative lap time from him. Obviously, he's been having a couple of issues with his internet. Hopefully, he gets them sorted in time for the race. But he has got a lap time on the board at least. Dario then heading back to the pit lane. Good lap time from him, but we're just awaiting Domi here, who is now making his way towards 130R, named after the radius of the corner, 130 degrees, as you go flat through the left-hander, onwards now towards the Casio triangle, braking hard there. Get as close to the grass on the left-hand side as you possibly can to open up the track on entry, then carry the speed through all the way through to that start-finish line. DRS wide open, 25.641 from Domi, takes back provisional pole position.
Yeah, great lap then from Domi. He's had 4 pole positions so far this season, 3 in a row actually, at Belgium, Italy and Singapore before that streak was ended last time out, and he's looking to put himself in the best possible chance of securing a championship by maybe taking a victory here. On board then with Desso. Let's see what the Alfa Romeo driver can do coming into this hairpin here. Very tricky corner indeed. He's pretty much the only driver not to have set a lap time. There's still a few others yet to have set representative lap times, as Coutinho's connection unfortunately does seem to be getting the better of him at this moment in time. Coming through Spoon Corner, and as Sebastian Vettel proved in 2018, that is a really tricky corner, especially if you're close to the car in front and then you end up having to make an overtake. It's not a bit like a lot of corners, similar to turn 1. Unless you're alongside the car already going into the braking zone, it is extremely difficult to make a move there.
Yeah, it is. That's just the nature of this Suzuka track. It is really difficult, really challenging to try and overtake. So qualifying and getting that track position in qualifying is really, really important. We've got Boss, who is, I think he was on a lap time. He's backed out of it now, and it looks like he could be going again. He's only got about, 4 minutes 40 seconds. So really, ideally, he'll want to come back to the pits now, get on a fresh set of tyres, and make sure he's got enough time to set a lap time at the end of the session. I doubt he'll go for another lap here. He'll probably come back in, which he does, follows Domi into the pit lane. So a fresh set of tyres for him to get him out on track later on. But Domi leads this qualifying session. Dario second, Boss in third, with Sam Gamer fourth, and Kugino, who has joined back into the session, currently has the fifth fastest lap time. But from Sam Gamer and Kugino, we're of course expecting representative lap times from them very, very soon.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they do. 4 minutes remaining. Most of the drivers just waiting in the pits. And to be honest, I can kind of see what Sam Gamer's doing there. 4th position on the medium tyres. Clearly not setting a representative time, but he'll have gone around fairly steady at that pace. So he wouldn't have put a lot of wear into those tyres. Obviously, they won't be brand new after starting in the top 10, but that's not a bad position whatsoever for himself to be in all of a sudden. So it's still Domi on pole position, Dario in second, and Boss in third. And this could be really useful as well. We mentioned that the Drivers' Championship is fairly close after... Well, Drivers' Championship was close. It's now 69 points. So it looks like it's sorted for Domi. The Constructors' Championship is still only 3 points. So Blizzard can definitely get himself a bit of pride if he manages to help Williams hold on to that title.
Yeah, and it's a much bit of needed good news, isn't it, for Williams, if they can try and get themselves to that position of getting themselves a Constructors' Championship. And I'm sure they'll try and push everything towards it. Dario now back onto the circuit, currently second place at the moment, 25.6 from him at the moment. Very close, the battle between the top two to try and get themselves that pole position and that really good run down towards turn one, the much needed run down towards turn one. And of course, we've had this issue in the past, Luke, haven't we? Starting position at Suzuka. Now, nowadays, the racing line is normally the place where the first grid slot goes. And of course, it hasn't always been that way. Obviously, Ayrton Senna raised this issue where the starting or the very first grid slot used to be on the right-hand side of the track, which was on the dirty side of the track. And since then, they've moved it back over to the left-hand side so that the first person on the grid gets the benefit of the better track condition, the better track rubber, in order to get themselves the better traction. It's a real issue, and it's been raised many times before, and hopefully the pole position man gets the good amount of traction that they need to get themselves the good start that they want.
Yes, that's the way it is traditionally at most circuits, and I think Ayrton Senna found a fairly unique way of putting his point across at the start of the 1990 Japanese Grand Prix. It's still extremely close, though, here at the top of the timing charts. Domi, Dario and Boss, just 1.5 tenths of a second between them at this moment in time, and it's going to be Dario who's going to be the first one of these drivers to set their final lap. So let's see what he can do. There's some yellow flags up ahead. I think that's just cars retiring in the pit, so shouldn't affect the drivers. We've got a couple of cars looking very close to each other as they head around turn one. We've seen that already a few times in this qualifying. It's a bit strange for a long track when there's not too many drivers out there. Traffic seems to have been a problem, and because of the narrow nature and the twistiness, dirty air can really have a large effect here.
It can, as Dario now coming across Desso, so it's a really, really awkward position, this one, because he's come across Desso going in towards the Degners there. Now, will that have cost him time? Well, it will cost him that lap time, and Desso there, I'm sorry, you had to get out of the way there. Complete disregard for Dario on a flying lap. Will absolutely go towards the stewards. Meanwhile, Boss then 2 tenths up on his previous attempt, and that's got him at 25.7 so far. He's currently now on a flying lap to try and get himself up the order. Currently second row of the grid on that 25.7. It's only a tenth to find. I say only a tenth, but you've got to assume that Domi will be getting a faster lap time in there. He is currently making his way through the S's and now making his way through the Dunlop curve with only less than 30 seconds on the clock here before the checkered flag falls. Boss making his way now in towards the hairpin, now making his way on towards that long right-hander before Spoon curve. Got to make sure that the traction is there and trying to make sure you don't push the car to its limits, even in a right-hander. It is possible. We have seen punctures around here in the past. Now Boss making his way through Spoon curve, now down through that little bit of a dip rise over the crest towards 130R. Checker flag is now out. Dario, of course, will not be improving on that lap time after it was compromised. 3/10 up is Boss right now. This is trying to get to a pole position lap time here. Boss now making his way through the Casio triangle. Bit of a lockup on that front right-hand tyre. Will that be enough to make sure that he gets that pole position lap time? So far, 25.5 is the fastest lap time of this session. How about Domi then? He's 900ths of a second up on his previous best. Now making his way through the final sector towards the line, and it is a 25.3. Domi then will grab pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix. I told you it was a low 25 we were looking for, and Domi has found that time and with rewarded pole position for this race.
Yes, definitely. We'll see what Aero can do then at the moment. He'll probably be aiming to get himself easily up towards that top 5 at the moment on the set of the medium tyres, which could put him in good stead in the race. We'll see what he does round the final chicane, then keeps it nice and clean. DRS open as you just head onto a straight part of the track, and a very good lap indeed. 9/10 off of pole position around here on the medium tyres is a very respectable job from Aero, so let's watch what he can do in the race. But it is Domi again on pole position. 4 poles out of 5 races. There's nothing like finding form just at the right point of the season.
Yeah, and this is him trying to make sure that his grip on that trophy is getting more and more. He wants this title too. But there you go, Domi then on pole position by just over 0.2 of a second from Dario Aero. Gamer there in the one there, Gugino, Blizzard, Dynastics, and then Deso rounding it off there. So that's our grid then for this Japanese Grand Prix. And Luke, I have to say, Domi here, not only does he look bang in form, but he looks bang on the pace. I'm kind of not seeing anybody else winning this race. This could be a Domi drive to the finish line and drive away from everybody else sort of race.
Yes, definitely. Especially, we've already mentioned the penalties that Blizzard, unfortunately for him, just seems to pick up on the odd occasion, which can cost him ever so slightly. Probably would be slightly closer in the championship because of that. And, as you mentioned, it's a very difficult track to overtake on, so the alternate strategy, probably not as powerful as it is as some other circuits, because even the one DRS zone down towards turn 1 isn't really a slam dunk overtaking point. I think we already mentioned the hairpin and probably the Casio triangle, that chicane coming out of 130R, the best overtaking point if you can stay close enough for 130R and you don't get yourself affected by the dirty air. Domi, though, he'll be pretty happy that he's not got Blizzard anywhere near him. He doesn't have to think about the title in this race. He can just sort of afford to drive his own race. He's got that buffer in hand, whereas Blizzard's really just got to try everything to get the win if he wants any chance of staying in this title battle.
Yeah, and I kind of think his qualifying antics will get him some sort of penalty going into towards the next one, which will make his title charge even more difficult. However, for now, he's got to focus on qualifying. For now, he's got to try and make sure he gets the most amounts possible to try and make sure that this championship battle doesn't get too far out of his reach. But with Domi in this kind of form, he's looking to try and just strengthen that grip on this title. This might not be a case of if Domi wins, it might be a case of when he wins it.
Yeah, just to remind you, he cannot win it tonight, but if he wins today and wins next week at the USA, it will be over. In fact, depending on where Blizzard finishes today, although depending on where Domi finishes today, it might carry on a bit longer as well. We'll see what tyres everyone has gone for in this race. A pretty even split. 5 drivers on the softs, 5 on the mediums. Unsurprisingly, Blizzard, Dynastics and Dezo all deciding they want a nice fresh set of those medium tyres. They just got to hope they don't get stuck in traffic behind maybe Cugino and Sam Gamer.
No, absolutely right. And again, around a technical track, around this sort of narrow track this is, overtaking is already going to be difficult. If you intentionally make yourself at the back of the grid, it makes it even tougher. So you've got to try and keep your wits about you, keep that pace up, and use the pit stops to your advantage. Now, Luke, what are we expecting today? Because obviously Japan seems to be a little bit harsh on the tyre wear, and maybe more harsh than you realise.
Yes, definitely. Pirelli do bring quite hard tyres here. I believe it is the 3 hardest tyres just because of the nature of the circuit. I'll be surprised if we see anything other than a one-stop strategy. Probably some of the drivers at the front might try soft to medium, especially if they're on a fresher set of the soft tyres, or soft to hards. Those on the mediums will want to stretch them long enough to go onto the soft tyres. And it's all because of what I said. It's a difficult circuit to overtake on. If you do the 2-stop strategy, you're going to have to go through a lot of cars with only 1 or 2 real overtaking opportunities, you're going to find yourself stuck in a queue quite often. I mean, we don't want to put all the viewers off watching, but can we see anyone other than Domi winning this race? We know both McLarens have been quick on occasion, and Aero in that 4th place. He could have a say if he can just stay with those front 3 drivers in the opening few laps.
I mean, we've seen how quick Dario can be. I mean, cast your mind back towards Singapore. He was on the pace. He was up on the pace with those 4 drivers up at the top, but he made a mistake going in towards that sort of stint on the intermediates, and it cost him a front wing, and it cost him a really good chance of at least a podium in that race. So he's shown us he has the pace. He can drive to the maximum. It's whether or not he can keep that front wing intact, which, you can see the walls are close at some points, but there's lots of gravel traps around. So let's see if he can keep his front wing intact, and that should mean Dario keeps on the pace here. But we're lining up then for the start of this Japanese Grand Prix. Strap yourselves in. It's 27 laps here at Suzuka.
Yeah, it should be 27 absolutely fascinating laps. Domi, with the view that he's enjoyed quite regularly towards the end of this season. No one in front of him on that downhill run to turn 1. Deso just coming into the position in 10th place on those medium tyres. Everyone's going to have to be nice and careful on that run down towards turn 1. A bad start here. It could be very easy to see some drivers slipping down the field as we've got the starting lights coming on. We've got 5 lights. And we are underway here in Japan. Now, what are the starts like? It seems like a pretty decent start there from Domi and from Dario as well, who's been able to jump ahead of Boss on that dirty side of the grid. So Domi is in the lead. Dario, Boss, Aero in 4th place. Coutinho trying to go all the way around the outside on those fresh soft tyres. Just finds himself running out of road there. And that promotes Sam Gamer up a position. Everyone through the first few corners relatively cleanly then. A bit of wheel bumping, but nothing too major. And they all have to go single file through the S's, through the Dunlop curve if they want to avoid any damage. Domi, though, with that absolutely fantastic start, as we do see the suggested pit stop strategies coming up on the bottom of the screen. He's got 2 McLarens behind him. Then Aero still there on the medium tyres, as is Sam Gamer. If those 2 can work together and use the DRS after the end of lap 2 to just stick in contact, could really help them have a great chance of getting a podium and maybe more from this race. Coutinho 6, Dynastics, the reserve, making his debut this season in 7th. He'll be wanting to prove that he can maybe get a spot in F1 next year. Blizzard looking on the back of him at the moment, knows he can't afford to be stuck in this traffic, and Deso is in 9th place at this moment. And the final runner, Dynastics Edge, just running ever so slightly wide out of the spoon. Coutinho, unfortunately, still seems to be having a few internet issues, so hopefully that doesn't cause any problems with the other drivers. A dream getaway, though, from Domi and from Dario as well. Boss just getting a bit of wheel spin, getting bogged down. Whatever it was, he's lost a place on the start line. Now he's just got to try and regroup from that.
Dynastics has made a mistake then at the Casio Triangle, and Blizzard has absolutely pounced. He's got himself now up into 7th place as Domi now starts the 2nd lap of the race. Pretty clean start, all things considered there. Coutinho just making a slight mistake going in towards the first 2 corners there. He found himself on the outside, and really no room for him as Sam Gamer put the squeeze on and made Coutinho have to think about putting a front wing up the inside. And Coutinho decided, I want to race here. I don't want to be facing the wall at any point in this race. So he backed out of it. He's going to fight another day, but he's lost a little bit of time on the Alfa Romeo ahead of him. Sam Gamer then is in that position. He's on those medium tyres. Now, we've seen time and time again, Luke, he's tried this alternate strategy on the medium tyres, and somewhere along the line, I don't know whether it's the softer tyres that he just can't seem to get the best out of, but it always looks like he puts himself in a great position halfway through the race, and then as the race progresses, it just doesn't look like he has that same pace that he has at the start.
Yes, I think last week was a prime point. Even though last time out he started on the soft tyres from pole position, he did look very handy in those opening stages, was soaking up a lot of pressure as Coutinho picks up a time penalty on the exit of Spoon. And then he just had a bad pit stop, whether he had damage, whether he got held in the pits, whether he made a mistake on pit entry, which is fairly easy to do at the Russian Grand Prix. And then it all just sort of slowly fell apart from him. I'm not quite sure what it is, but seems to do better with heavier cars than he does with a lighter car, which is sort of the opposite of what you expect to see from a lot of drivers. Coutinho is coming into the pits and clearly deciding that if he has got a bit of damage, it's not a lot to cope with, and retiring from the session. I think in the end, unfortunately for him, his internet has won the battle tonight. Interestingly, Aero, fastest lap of the race already on that set of the medium tyres. That's a very good lap from him, taking advantage of the slipstream, and he's still within DRS range, as is Sam Gamer. This is a big help for those that started on the medium tyres.
Now this is the problem. This is the thing about starting on these soft tyres. Now they have fantastic grip for the first few kilometres, but after that they do really go on a downward spiral. In fact, the medium tyres will get to an earlier point where the delta is favouring those yellow wall tyres. So if Aero and Sam Gamer can keep themselves up on the pace, if they can keep themselves within that distance between these soft tyre runners, they're going to find themselves in that position where they can really extend the gap. The only problem with that is that if they don't want to use the soft tyres, they have to use the hard tyres, which around Suzuka, it's really difficult, even with these winding corners, to really keep the heat in those hard tyres. And they are really, really slow around here compared to the soft tyres. Nearly 1.4 seconds off the pace just on the soft tyres. So it is a huge ask to make those tyres really, really work around here. So those medium tyre runners, you can expect them to be running the soft tyres at some point in this race. So the problem that the front three are facing now, the ones behind on the medium tyres, will have to face eventually.
Yes, definitely, and Blizzard there with the fastest lap of the race, pretty much proving the point that he wouldn't have had DRS on that lap, even though it is activated at the end of lap 2. The activation point is before the start-finish line, so they won't get to use it until lap 3, and he wasn't within a second of Sam Gamer. He is pulling away ever so slightly from Dynastics, who's having Deso behind him at this moment in time. I think Dynastics might have been quite a late decision to end up actually racing as a reserve here tonight, so maybe not as practiced as he perhaps would ideally like to be. And I suppose going back to the tyres, Domi's in a good situation because he's in that free air. It looks a lot hotter than it was in qualifying. Track temperature will definitely be a few degrees warmer. That means the tyres are going to be hotter anyway. Domi's the only one in clear air out of these soft runners at this moment in time, and that could be a big advantage over the next few laps.
Yeah, and you'll notice with these drivers, they run a lot of camber as well to try and help the turning with these cars. The more you sort of adjust that camber, the higher the temperature in these tyres go to try and keep the grip on the car. That means you exacerbate the tyre wear. So it's that fine balance of having the grip early on, having a lot of grip early on, and have it fade away fast, or just have an average amount of grip and have that fall away slowly. So it's a real balancing act of trying to get the right setup and trying to make sure these tyres last. And it won't be too far away before we see these soft tyre runners jump into the pit and get themselves onto a set of medium tyres. We will try and expect them to see if they can make it to the end of the race. Lap number 5 though, Domi does lead the way from Dario and Boss. It's Aero in 4th, Sam Gamer in 5th, Blizzard 6th, Dynastics in 7th, and Deso in 8th place.
Yeah, definitely. Deso in last position at the moment. Close it up to the back of Dynastics. Just can't quite get close enough. We've seen this at a few tracks. Abu Dhabi's one that sort of comes to mind. A chicane heading onto a straight doesn't really seem to provide the best overtaking action. It's not a long straight and it's not a heavy braking zone into turns 1 and 2. So unfortunately for Deso, he couldn't quite get close enough to do anything about the Dynastics at the moment, because he'll be feeling a bit frustrated, well, Deso, because he's just seeing those up ahead pull away ever so slightly. But Domi is still in the lead of this race, 7 tenths at the moment. Back to Dario, Boss, Aero, Sam Gamer, Blizzard. Pretty much Domi and Dynastics are the only drivers who aren't within DRS range at the moment. That is just showing how close it is. And now that those soft runners haven't got away from those on the mediums, you've got to feel Aero, Sam, Blizzard, probably not Dynastics and Deso because they are dropping back, are going to be in a really good position at the end of this race. You're going to be seeing plenty of overtaking, and as I say, they're going to be possibly in a good position. Dynastics, the first driver apart from Coutinho to pick up a penalty. Not the easiest track really to pick up too many penalties here. You see it, Spoon's really the common place where you will see penalties, and the inside of Degner 1 and the exit of Degner 2. Sometimes you just put a wheel over, well, all 4 wheels over the white line, and obviously you get yourself a warning.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do, especially, as you say, at Spoon Curve. If you run too wide on the right-hand side to try and really get the most grip and get the most out of that corner, you can find yourself with a little bit of a warning there. Again, we can see on the outside of turns 1 and 2, again, a nice, easy place to pick up a warning. You've got the Degner curves as well. That's also a place to get yourself a warning if you run over the curbs on the inside too much, or if you use that left-hand side curve between the two Degners, that's a way to get those penalties. So there are a few places, a few hot spots around this track where it is possible. However, as you can see, Dynastics being the first one to grab a penalty, being at his debut, this is a baptism of fire for him tonight.
Well, he's still going at the moment, and you never know if there's any safety cars. He could be in a position to take advantage. Lap 6 of the race, the McLaren's still hounding the Haas of Domi at the moment, and as it stands, he would again, can't win the Drivers' Championship tonight, but it would put Haas into the lead of the Constructors if he ends up taking a victory. So I'm sure that is something that might just be ever so slightly in the back of his mind at the moment. Aero, Sam Gamer and Blizzard keeping up with the front three as well. They're all sort of spaced out in that dirty air zone that the drivers get into. About half a second to about 7 or 8 tenths of a second where they can get a powerful slipstream. Just dirty air affects them and really makes it difficult to enact an overtake. Blizzard trying to get a better exit through that chicane there, and you'll just see the concertina effect. Sam Gamer will break away ever so slightly, decides to go slightly defensive. Both drivers with the DRS, and unsurprisingly, Williams does not have the straight line speed advantage when the car in front has DRS to get the position. Dezo, though, however, has now managed to work his way past Dynastics. DRS assisted pass into turn 1. He's up into 7th. Now it'll be interesting to see if he's got enough pace left in those tyres to maybe catch up to those up ahead.
Yeah, he's finally got past Dynastics, as you say, with that help with the DRS, and he's now up into 7th place. He's 3.4 seconds off of Blizzard at this moment in time. But to be honest with you, that pack is all really bunched up together. So if they start battling, or if one of the front runners starts to go a little bit slowly, it will draw everyone back in towards Deso. So all he needs to do is set some consistent lap times, look after his tyres, and he'll be back onto and latching onto the back of that pack in no time. 21 to go, 20 and a bit if you're picky. It is Domi who leads from Dario and Boss. Of course, all three of those are on the soft tyres. Then it's Aero, Sam Gamer, Blizzard, Deso and Dynastics in 8th place, all on the medium tyres. And as you can see now, Domi making his way towards 130R. And it's a real bout of patience here. You've really got to be on your toes, ready to make a move, but you can't really do it until you are side by side. Speaking of side by side, Blizzard's going round the outside in towards the Casio triangle on Sam Gamer. He grabs the inside of the second part but can't get the back end in check, loses a lot of time there and has to back out of it. But it was a nice idea from Blizzard. He just slightly outbraked himself on the entrance in towards the Casio triangle, and from then on he was always on an uphill battle to get that move done.
Yes, he was. He's very tough around the outside, and Sam Gamer, he'll feel like he was entitled to defend his position. He did do. And they're the sort of moves Blizzard is going to have to pull off. He doesn't want to be stuck behind these drivers if he wants to take a victory in this race. It's always that fine balance. He needs to be aggressive. If he just goes too far, it'd be very, very easy to lose a lot of time, as he did there. Maybe even worse, lose part of his front wing. But he is still able to carry on. He has just dropped back ever so slightly as Sam Gamer picking up a penalty through the first part of the Degners there. Still hanging on, though, to 5th place. It does look, though, that Blizzard has more pace than him at this moment in time. Probably next 2 or 3 laps, we might start seeing these soft runners come into the pits.
Yeah, they're desperately trying to get as much out of these soft tyres as possible. I mean, I've seen history around the Japanese Grand Prix that these tyres have got to be treated in the right way at the right time. You've got to really take care of these tyres. We've seen drivers pit in early to try and get an undercut, but then fall flat on their face when their tyres explode. I mean, literally explode towards the end of the race. So it's really trying to find the exact best lap that gets you a little bit of an undercut, but also makes sure that your tyres are fine for the end of the race. And clearly right now for Domi, for Dario and for Boss, it's not yet. We see there though, Dario, his pit window, according to that strategy, is now open. Now whether he decides to pit in this lap is an entirely different question. Drivers are always thinking on their feet, and if they can pit early, they'll try and do that for sure.
Well, yes, because the field being so close together at the moment means if Dario or Boss pit this lap, try and do that undercut. And if you're not familiar with that term for Formula 1, it's when you come into the pits a lap earlier and use your fresher tyres to have extra pace. There's plenty of free air behind the Renault driver at the moment. He's not going to be in any danger catching them up for a good few laps, so he could definitely use that undercut to gain a bit of time. And as we're seeing at the moment, it's not the easiest circuit to overtake on. I think it's pretty much only Dezo who's pulled off an overtake since lap 1. Domi just running a bit wide there, coming through the hairpin. That's allowed Dario to get ever so slightly closer. If he could just nail Spoon here, he could have a go into 130R and the chicane, and maybe that'll just put him off pitting for a lap longer if he feels like he's got a chance at an overtake. You see him close it up ever so slightly. He's doing a fantastic job on ERS as well, just choosing to use that now. Is he going to go for the move down the inside at the 130R, the McLaren here? That was a very easy move indeed. Domi, I think, realising that Dario had a bit more momentum there, choosing not to fight it too much, and I wonder if we will see, therefore, the Haas driver or anyone come into the pits, and it is Boss. His teammate didn't come in. He might as well take advantage of the first driver then from the soft tyres to come into the pits, and this will be a set of mediums to get him towards the end.
Yeah, and it will be now trying to make sure those tyres last for those 18 laps that they've now got to drive on. So he'll rejoin the track in clear air as well. So he won't have to worry about battling other cars. He won't have to worry about any dirty air for now, at the very least. What he'll focus on now is trying to get some good lap times in to see if he can get not only ahead of his teammate, but ahead of Domi as well. That puts Aero now into third place as the first of the medium tyre starters. So let's see what he can do. He's still right on the back of Domi and Dario, but this is where now the used medium tyres will be at a slight disadvantage, because all the time they're now stuck behind these two on soft tyres. They're now losing time in the long run to Boss, who's in clear air on fresh tyres and able to set whatever lap times he wants.
Yes, Boss will probably now be the quickest driver out on track, unless Dario has really been getting held up by Domi. And you can see already he's pulled quite a bit of a gap, around 7/10 there into braking for Spoon, suggesting that he did have a bit more pace in hand on these soft tyres. He's using a lot more VRS now that he's in the free air, to counter-attack the slipstream and DRS, and possibly just to push everything out of these tyres if he is coming in on this lap, because he won't want to get undercut by his teammate. Dario has had a win earlier this season from pole position at the Spanish Grand Prix. How he would love to get himself a second victory, and here he comes into the pits. Domi, unsurprisingly, following in as well. So that is now Aero into the lead of this race. Sam Gamer is second and Blizzard in third position. Where are Dario and Domi going to come out relative to this man, the McLaren of Boss?
Well, let's see then. He's coming in towards the Casio triangle is Boss. As you can see there, the Haas of Domi into the pits, and now he's able to rejoin onto that pit lane exit now. Here comes Boss down the start-finish straight. It's a short run from the pit lane down towards the first turn, but you can see there Dario's just emerged ahead of his teammate, but crucially for Boss, he is ahead of Domi. So the two McLarens have got a jump then on our championship leader in Domi. So if Domi wants those positions, he's going to have to take them out on track. The McLarens have made that perfectly clear. They worked that perfectly as well. Boss taking an undercut, pitting maybe a lap earlier than maybe he wanted to. However, he's got ahead of the Haas, and Domi finds himself in that, well, third place for now. Deso gets a little bit of gravel on his rear tyres. Well, that obviously means he's been off track somewhere, because Dynastics was able to really close up on him. So did he make a mistake? Was there contact between the two of them? I just saw the end of the incident, so I'm not entirely sure. What I can say is Deso was off the track for a brief moment.
Yeah, that's not ideal. He's actually used a lot of VRS as well to get himself back up to speed, and once he's not doing that, it's sometimes tricky to recover, so might just have to relax for a couple of laps, maybe accept that Dynastics will get closer to him, and then try and go again. Probably going to be another 4 or 5 laps at least before we see these leaders that are now on the medium tyres come into the pits. Dario, Boss and Domi will definitely be faster than them. Now we'll get to see if Sam Gamer and Blizzard can challenge for the lead of this race. Aero doesn't have the DRS anymore. Sam's managed to stay in contact, and Blizzard's slowly been reeling his way back in. He's just got himself back within DRS range. Just seems happy though to sit slightly further back. Whether this means he's going to try the overcut and just go for the fresher soft tyres at the end of the race, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when you're doing that, you've got to make sure that the soft tyres will last as long as you want them to. We've seen them last about 10, 11 laps in the hands of those that started on them, and of course that meant they qualified on them. So expect to see about 13, 14 laps on those soft tyres as an absolute maximum. Otherwise you'll be starting to push puncture territory on those tyres. So realistically, we're looking at around about lap 15 for these medium tyres, for that pit window for the medium tyres to actually open up. Could be a lap earlier if you want to try and risk a little bit of an undercut on the car ahead. We'll see what Sam Gamer does, as I believe his pit window on his strategy is open. So I think it's a little early, but if Sam Gamer wants to take the risk for it, he certainly will try and take a risk for it.
I mean, that'd be bang on for a medium-hard strategy, but I don't see why you do that. That's pretty much just admitting, oh, I'm going to finish behind Dario, Boss and Domi, and there's nothing I can do about that. We've had Blizzard there pick up a time penalty, and for a second it looked as though he was heading towards the pits. He's really started to put the hammer down when I said he might be saving his tyres. He's picked up a penalty, and he has got within half a second of Sam Gamer, who himself is within half a second of Aero. 15 laps remaining then And it is the Racing Point leading from Sam, Blizzard, Dezo, Dynastics, Dario, Boss and Domi are the drivers that have made the pit stops, and perhaps unsurprising to see them set fastest laps of the race. Boss a 1:28.828. Now it is really going to be tricky for Domi to take the win here. Not only has he got to react to those that are doing the alternate strategy, third man in the DRS train, always that more difficult to get a move done.
Yes, it is, and you'll find that you'll get just about 2 bouts, in fact, of dirty air. Yes, you get a little bit of a double toe down the straight, but when you go through the corners, you really feel the lack of grip you have, being the second car, or at least the third car, I should say, in that train, the second car to get that bout of dirty air. It's really, really noticeable, and it can heat the car up, heat your engine up, making it less efficient. It can heat your tyres up, making them more susceptible to wear. It's just an all-round bad thing to be stuck in that dirty air for too long. And as you say, because the car ahead of you has a little bit of DRS, there's nothing really down the straights you can really do apart from try and just maximise the efficiency of your ERS usage. Other than that, it looks like you're just grabbing the popcorn and staring at a rear wing for a bit.
Yes, one thing that could help though, and on the lines of maximising your ERS usage, is Boss has probably maximised his a bit too much. He's down at 6% at the moment, whereas Dario and Domi are in the 40s. So if he just starts slipping back a bit too much and maybe even drops outside of DRS range, that could just be the chance that Domi needs. Back towards the lead of the race, not a lot changing. Aero, Sam and Blizzard been this way pretty much since lap 1 at the moment, and looking very good for Aero because he's just keeping it nice and clean. He hasn't got any penalties, and I wonder if in the next lap or two we'll see Sam Gamer and Blizzard go for that undercut.
Yeah, I think we'll be seeing it now. It's lap 14. We've got 14 laps of the race to go, 13 and a bit if you are picky. This is really when we'll start to see that pit window for the soft tyres open up. It's going to be nip and tuck in the final 5 or 10 kilometres with the tyre wear. However, if you want to try and make the undercut work, this is really the lap you've got to do it. It's whether Aero does it as well. It's always difficult being the leader of the pack, because if you make a decision, everyone else can react to you. But if you don't react and everybody else pits in, you're stranded out there for a good 5.5 kilometres on tyres that maybe are, not the ones you want to be on and well past their best. So let's see what happens as they head through 130R.
Yes, you'd imagine if you do stay out on the old mediums compared to fresh softs, we're talking 1.5 to 2 seconds possibly of tyre delta between those. So this could be really costly for anyone who decides to stay out and not go for the undercut. They're all thinking that they want to do another lap, as further down Domi has got ahead of Boss just before we've got to 130R. And I think that's what I mentioned earlier. Boss not managing his ERS as well as the other two drivers, just dropped a bit too far back for the slipstream to be effective, and that means the Haas driver was able to get the move done. Domi won't have DRS though. On the run down to turn 1, you can see Boss in the background closing ever so slightly, but not close enough, and that is Domi now up into second place, and this is how they were just before the pit stops after Dario made that overtake. So now can the Haas driver try and get back into what would be the net lead of the race?
Yeah, of course, that's a net second place. We're assuming that these three will take back that lead of the race, that lead pack of the race, before Aero, Sam Gamer, Blizzard, Deso and Dynastics then pit in to put themselves on a soft set of tyres. So we'll see how that goes as Domi just accepts his own personal best, almost a tenth quicker through that second sector just by clearing one car. He's managed to pick his pace up quite a bit as well. So riding on board I am with Sam Gamer as we make our way through Spoon Curve, down this sort of descent, and then you're rising over a crest as you approached 130R, still in that bit of distant tow from Aero ahead of him. He's still within that DRS as well. Let's see, lap 15, we've got 13 laps to go. Let's see who is going to be the one to blink first, to go for these soft tyres, braking hard and in towards the Casio triangle, making sure you keep those tyres in check, and Blizzard is the one that blinks first, third in that queue. So first opportunity to really get the undercut. The Williams driver is now in the pit lane. Deso follows him in.
Yes, I don't think that was too surprising. Blizzard was looking really close to the back of Sam Gamer there, and I think decided, right, I am doing the opposite of whatever you do. I'm fed up of staring at your rear wing now. So soft tyres going on. This will put him down into 7th position there. You can see Domi, Boss and Dario, who's still the net race lead, and at this moment in time is 16.1 seconds off the actual race leader, which is Aero, without any penalties. Sam Gamer, Dynastics and Blizzard well, Dynastics has 6 seconds. Sam Gamer and Blizzard are currently on just 3 seconds off penalty. So surely we're now going to see the lead 2 cars react to that pit stop from Blizzard.
We have to. They have to as well, in order to try and keep themselves up to pace with Blizzard as well. As you know, the undercut around here is worth a good 2.5 seconds. So it's time you can't lose if you're part of a train. So you're kind of seeing them pit in at some point in this race, at some point in this, or on this lap, I should say, as Deso has a little bit of a moment going through the Dunlop curve there. A little bit of a visit over the grass, I think, as he rejoins safely without much damage. So he'll be able to carry on with that with just a little bit of a moment. He'll be frustrated with that one. However, let's just see then, going through 130R and then down towards the Casio Triangle. Aero leading the way as we now make our way through, as Blizzard now doubles what he had before. 6 seconds worth of penalties will be added to the end of his race, and there is Aero and Sam Gamer into the pit lane, braking hard then for that limiter line as they now make their way towards their respective pit boxes. 11 laps to go then in this Japanese Grand Prix, as Dynastics doesn't quite get the speed limit line in the pit lane. 5-second penalty to be added to the end of his race. That would be served as a 5-second stop go. But we can't do that once you've made your pit stop, so that'll be added to the end of his race instead. Boss then emerges in 3rd place. There's Aero making his way through. Sam Gamer as well looking for the position. Blizzard's moved up to 4th as predicted, as Aero now rejoins just behind him in 5th place. Sam Gamer in 6th. Dynastics then rejoining the pit lane in 7th place, and Deso following him out, as he now goes on to a fresh set of soft tyres, trying now to chase down that 7th place position. But a nice idea from Blizzard. It's got him and earned him 2 positions. He's now up into 4.
Yes, and very importantly for him, he will be the first soft runner to come across those on the mediums. He's already only 3.4 seconds behind, so he might just have a chance to build up a bit of gap over Aero, over Sam Gamer, who have less penalties than him at the moment in time. But Boss seems to just be doing enough to hold on to the back of Domi, and Domi's doing likewise with Davio. So while this DRS train, only a small one, only 3 carriages, only a nice little local service, is available at the moment, that's just going to make it a bit tougher for Blizzard, Aero and Sam Gamer to get that move done. Like you said in qualifying, the hairpin, there's no DRS going into the hairpin, and they're going to have a lot more grip at this moment in time. So if they concentrate on getting a good exit through the second deck there, that could be a good position to see some moves.
Yeah, as we just have a look at this top 3 right now. Of course, they are on the medium tyres, so they'll easily get to the end of the race. They shouldn't have to worry too much about any tyre wear they come across. But as you can see, Blizzard and Co are right behind. Blizzard setting the fast lap of this race, 28.4. Here comes Aero, then looking for a move down the inside in towards the first turn, as they do make slight contact, but Aero is through on the inside. Blizzard loses that back end, catching the inside curve of turn 2, and loses a lot of time there. Blizzard now down into 5th place. Aero moving up into 4th place. It was a brave move. He got his elbows out, he got the move done, he's up into 4th.
What a move from Aero there. He's yet to have a win this season. You can tell he is pretty hungry for it at this moment in time, as Boss now picks up a 3-second tyre penalty. He was not giving up that position. They're determined to get ahead of Blizzard. Bit of contact between them. He was alongside, he was well entitled to space, and he's got that move done. Now, can he target those 3 lead cars? And Blizzard, even the fastest lap of the race wasn't enough there to stop Aero. That's how powerful the DRS there. And that's how good of an exit Aero must have got out of the chicane. And Blizzard's just dropped back ever so slightly, so we might see him renew a battle with Sam Gamer. He had a go at overtaking Sam earlier on, of course, as that is another time penalty for Blizzard. It's another race where that is what we're going to be talking about, the what-ifs for Blizzard if he hadn't have got any penalties, as Dynastics picks up one as well. Lap 18 out of 27, just about to start lap 19. 1/3 of the race remaining. Domi within 0.4 of a second of Davio. Now, is this close enough to perhaps go for a move into turn 1? You can see Domi closing in ever so slightly, just can't quite get that position done. And Aero there, fastest lap of the race, he's just sailing up to the back of these drivers, 2 seconds ahead. We've seen he can do it into turn 1 when the driver in front doesn't have DRS. Where's he going to go for it if the drivers in front do? Or is the tyre advantage just going to be too much for those to cope with, as we see Deso work his way back into 7th?
Yeah, he made the move on Dynastics, going in towards turns 1 and 2, and Deso now moves himself up into 7th place. And Blizzard there now 1.6 behind Aero then. Now, is that a case of, is there damage to the car, or is that just a case of his confidence has been knocked? Sometimes when we see Blizzard get overtaken, he takes that and it festers in his mind quite a lot to the fact that he's just knocked off his confidence for a couple of laps. And this is the perfect opportunity to try and take advantage and try and get a move done. Sam Gamer has closed in to within 0.5 of a second of second place man in the championship right now, and Blizzard picking up those 2-3 second time penalties within 10 laps as well doesn't help his mentality whatsoever. Sam Gamer here fancies his chances of getting a position.
Yes, definitely. I don't think when he signed up for AOR at the start of the season, and let's not forget, Sam was one of the drivers originally F2. I don't think he'd have expected he'd been fighting wheel to wheel with Blizzard and not doing too bad of a job at the moment. Just gets a bit slidey over the first part of the chicane there, perhaps taking a bit too much of that inside curve, and he might have to force Blizzard into a defensive move here. Sam Gamer is really closing. Blizzard going for the inside. Sam trying to sell him to dummy. Oh, didn't have enough of his car alongside there. Nearly on the comeback, ends up taking Blizzard out. That was very close to being a huge accident.
That was millimetres away. Millimetres. I mean, you saw the idea there with Sam Gamer to try and dummy it, then launch it down the inside. Caught the curve on the inside of turn one, unbalanced the car, unsettled it. Then he had to try and slow it down. He did the right thing and steered away from the rear wing of Blizzard there, taking himself out of the equation. I mean, he's survived that one to try and battle another day, but he'll be frustrated about that one. That didn't quite work, and it was just a little bit clumsy from Sam Gamer. No matter though, I'm sure 1.9 seconds though is going to be a big gap to try and side down, especially when you've got less than 20% or less than 15% battery left to use. So bit of a hard ask there for Sam Gamer. That might have been his best chance to get past Blizzard, and it might have just sailed by.
Yes, it will. He'll be trying his best to catch up. What we've seen from Blizzard dropping back behind Aero, once you get outside that DRS range, when they've been evenly matched on pace, it is very difficult to get back within. And Aero has now made it a 4-car train at the lead of this race. 7 laps remaining. Dario still leading from Domi. Aero would get a 3rd place as it stands because of Boss's 3-second penalty. He's going to have to try and close up though, a lot closer than he is at the moment, and work his way up the order. But Boss, for his teammate, has just got to try and stay in range here and try and stop Aero overtaking him. But you feel like if Aero can get ahead of Boss and get onto the back of Domi, then any slight mistake from Domi is on the back of Dario. And I can't see in a straight fight with the, well, I say a straight fight, Aero's got the advantage of extra grip and DRS if there's just two cars. I can't see how anyone would be able to defend from the racing point.
At this moment, no, and what goes in his favour as well is that he's got 0 penalties next to his name. So too does Domi and Dario, so they'll be fighting out on track for that position. For Boss though, he's got 3 seconds worth of time penalties. That'll be added to the end of his race, so he will drop out of that podium no matter what at this stage, with 7 laps to go, 6 and a bit if you are picky. Dario still leads the way though, Domi in 2nd, Boss 3rd and Aero in 4th. Now here's the thing about the soft tyres, they are quick at the start of their stint, but if you get dirty air, and as the laps go by, they start to wear out. Eventually, the delta will not be as good, and in fact, could be worse than the medium tyres heading towards the checkered flag. If you want these moves done, you need them quick, you need them in quick succession as well. He has to be aggressive on these tyres, but being aggressive takes life out of the tyres. It is going to be a tough ask for Aero, but I'm sure he's up to the task.
Yeah, we'll see what he can do here then. DRS open on Boss, DRS open on Aero, who's got a much better exit, obviously, coming out of the final corner. There's some wheel banging between Aero and Boss. He's still keeping his nose in there. Is the racing point. This will be a fantastic manoeuvre. If he can pull it off, he's got the traction. Coming out of turn 2, Aero is up to 3rd position. Boss made it difficult for him. But again, you can see Aero is committed. He could sniff this victory, and who could blame him for going for that move? He's now up to 3rd. Domi is his next target, but Domi has a lot more ERS than the McLaren, and that might just make it a little bit more trickier.
Yeah, it will do, and it's going to be a huge challenge for Aero, but as we've already seen, he's up to the challenge. He's well up for the challenge as well, as we make our way now in towards the hairpin. So Dario still leads the way from Domi, and now Aero, who's up into 3rd place, and they might have had a little bit of a disagreement down the start-finish straight, down towards turn 1, but Aero resolved those issues, sent it down the inside, got the move. He's now up into a podium position. Of course, Boss would have had 3 seconds worth of time penalties, so Aero would have moved ahead had he not made the move past. But now Aero has got a good chance, a really good chance of trying to grab a race win. The most important thing is, though, he keeps his head, keeps his cool, and keep those moves coming.
Yes, definitely. He looks a bit too far behind this time, unless there's a mistake from Dario or Domi into the chicane. And maybe, just maybe, those front two drivers battling could be the best chance for him to get the overtake done. Is Domi too bothered about taking the victory in this race at this moment in time? Yes, a third win in a row would be nice, but he's in second place. His championship rival, Blizzard, is currently in 5th position. And when you take penalties into account, Blizzard would be dropping into 6th place. So Domi would be going into the next round with a 79-point lead in the championship. He doesn't need to risk going for this overtake on Dario, but then on the other hand, if Aero just sends a bit of a dive bomb, Domi's more inclined to get out of the way because he doesn't need to defend too well.
That's a point as well, but what that will also do is Aero will then start to attack Dario, so that will bring Dario back to Domi, and it's all sort of, you're trying to do this all in your head as you're trying to drive these cars as well to their full potential. So all of that thinking going on, trying to make sure, trying to work out, is it worth me backing this car behind who's on quicker tyres, or is it worth just letting them go, making the move not too difficult, but in a position where I won't lose any time, and see if they can launch an attack on the race leader. That might bring me back into the battle. Yes, that means you'll be settling for 2nd place, but he's got 2nd place right now. The worst thing he can do is battle Aero, lose that time to Dario, lose that precious DRS, and have to settle for 3rd instead.
Yes, definitely. I mean, Aero, he's looking slightly closer this time around. He won't be close enough into the Casio triangle. He's just got to nail the left-hander of this chicane here. Not take too much curb, because that really does unsettle the car. It's a pretty good exit as well, though, from Domi. So again, 4 laps remaining. Dario and Domi in some order. They've been 1-2 pretty much this entire race, apart from the pit stop period. Aero is in 3rd position. And actually, just looking at that there, Domi was able to pull away ever so slightly from Aero. So I wonder if Domi's got a bit more of a slippery car than the Racing Point behind him at the moment. And again, that is another thing that will make it more difficult for the Racing Point to overtake, who are probably heading towards the point where that tyre advantage from Aero has nearly evaporated.
Yeah, and it's going to be a huge point here for Aero that now they could be on similar delta times on these tyres. So they're going to be setting similar lap times. Only now, Aero's tyres and his time delta will now get much worse than those medium tyre runners. However, this race is far from over. We've still got 4 laps to go, 3 and a bit if you're picky. Dario still leads the way here from Domi and Aero. That is your top 3 so far. Let's put this into perspective then. Dario, his last race win was also his only race win of this season. That was all the way back at round 6 at the Spanish Grand Prix. How he would love to add another win to his tally. He's going the right way about it though. No penalties for him at the moment. Domi is behind him and not quite gaining as much as he would like, with Aero still in 3rd place on the soft tyres with a heap of dirty air. This is his really ideal situation. If he can try and pull away from this train, if he can try and pull away full stop, he might have a chance of a victory. Aero, though, is now in the DRS zone of Domi. Now, Domi does have a little bit of DRS that will help him down that start-finish straight, and there you can see he's actually pulling away very, very slightly down towards turn 1 against Aero. And as you said, Luke, that's probably a case that he's running less wing than other cars around him, so he's able to carry more speed down the straights.
Yes, it's always one of those slight compromises. If you set up with slightly less wing, you're probably going to be a bit slower overall, but you're going to be a bit tougher to overtake in a DRS situation. If you put more downforce on, probably better tyre wear and a bit quicker through the corners, which is so important around a lot of F1 circuits, and particularly Suzuka, but you might just be that little bit easier to pass in a straight line. And I think Domi might be pretty happy at the moment that he has gone for a slightly more slippery setup, because Aero was only 2 tenths behind him coming out of the chicane, and when he had a similar disadvantage to Boss, he was able to make that up and cruise straight past. Domi was just able to hold on to that position. 2 and a bit laps remaining then. Interestingly, not only looking at the top 2 in the championship, because as things stand, it's going to take a bit of a miracle for Domi to drop for the lead in the championship. 3rd place battle is pretty interesting as well. As it would stand at the moment, Aero would go up into 3rd position on 174 points. Dario would jump into what would be 5th position on 155. It is Gil as 163 and CRG Gamer as 137. So there's best of the rest honours still to play for this season, and I'm sure that'll be a nice little honour to get yourself 3rd here in AOR F1. 2 laps remaining, and Dario, Domi and Aero just spread far enough apart at this moment in time that there's not really any overtakes. Boss staying there in contact at the moment, and Blizzard and Sam Gamer, as we suspected, once they dropped outside of DRS range, it's been extremely difficult for them to catch back up again.
Yeah, with only 2 laps to go now, as you can see, AOR, I think the tyres that he has now are sort of negated now by the tyre wear that they now have accumulated over that stint. So at the moment, he'll just be trying to get the most out of those tyres he possibly can to see if he can get just a last-minute overtake on at least one of these drivers. But for Dario, he looks comfortable out there. He looks really comfortable going in towards the hairpin. This is not a man who's waited a long, long time to try and add a second win on to his season so far. But you can see Domi is not going to try and hang around. He's closing in as we head towards the spoon curve. He's really turned up the wick now. He wants that win. He wants yet another win in this season. And of course, there is that case of, maybe a bit of a professor move where it's just sort of scoring points as and when you can. Domi's not interested in that though. He's interested in the win. He's going to go up the inside in towards 130R, and Dario backs out of it. Domi now takes the lead of the race here in Japan. Holds onto it there as Dario tries to benefit from the DRS going down the start-finish straight. Down the hill we go and onwards towards the start-finish line and onto the final lap of this race. Dario trying to close in once again, using that DRS, using a bit of slipstream, but not much ERS left in the tank for him. He's right on the rear wing of Domi as we fly through turns 1 and 2, but Domi is just about able to hold on there. He waited till the last possible moment, the last possible overtaking opportunity on the last lap to try and get his way through. He's done it on the final lap. Domi leads the race, and I think Blizzard's heart might have just sunk all too well.
Yes, it was looking improbable for Blizzard to win the title. It's pretty much almost looking mission impossible at this moment. Domi into the lead of this race, very similar to the move we saw Dario put on the Haas driver just before the first pit stop period, but it's switcheroo this time around. Domi down the inside before 130R. He takes that victory. Now can Aero maybe just take advantage of the fact that Dario could have been forced ever so slightly offline and just try and get ahead of the McLaren driver, who you can see there, his rear light is flashing, he's clipping on his ERS. He hasn't got that full 160 brake horsepower from the hybrid system. Aero's going to try everything here to get close enough, if not into 130R, perhaps into the chicane. You could see him closing ever so slightly. There might be one more twist in the tail in this race. Aero's just about got enough room there to send one up the inside into the chicane. Dario is trying everything to hang on. It's going to be a straight drag race towards the line. Domi is going to take the victory, but it is going to be Dario by 17 thousandths of a second who comes home in second. Aero tried everything. He ends up third. Boss is fourth. Sam Gamer equaling his best finish of the season in fifth. Blizzard sixth. Dezo seventh. Dynastics was the final finisher there, but a third victory in a row then for Domi. He now has, he's got a massive lead in the championship, and I'm saying massive because at this moment in time, not quite awake enough to calculate it. It's something like, I think, 86 points at this moment in time with 4 races to go. Job done, pretty much.
Well, it ain't over till it's over. Still 100 points left to score on the board, but that is win number 7 for Domi. He'll be absolutely thrilled with that one. Out of 18 races so far this season, that man there, Domi, has won 7 of them. Really, really good drive from him today. He held everything back until the last opportunity he could get an overtake done, and he timed it to perfection. Win number 7 then for Domi. It's Dario in second place there. That's a good result for him. That's his first podium, at least, since the Belgian Grand Prix at round 14. Aero then third place. What could have been a win today just didn't quite have the tyres at the end of the race to keep that momentum going. It's Boss in fourth, Sam Gamer in fifth, Blizzard finishing in 6th place with Deso in 7th, and Dynastics finishing in 8th place with Kugino retiring due to those internet issues that had been hampering him all the way through. But that's 25 more points for Domi, taking him now into that 300 bracket. 304 points now for Domi now at this stage of the season with 4 rounds to go. And just looking at the table here, of course, Dario scoring 15, Aero 12, Boss 10, Sam Gamer 8, and that's Blizzard on 6 points for that 6th place. So it is looking ever tough now. So 19 points, that gap has been extended now. We are now looking at 88 points difference between Domi and Blizzard. What that means for Domi is then he just has to finish ahead of Blizzard. That's route number 1, and he will be champion.
Well, it's not even that. I think it's at the situation now where a podium for Domi. Fastest laps might just give Blizzard a chance, but I think if Domi gets a podium and Blizzard does not get the fastest lap of the race, even if Blizzard won, we might be at a situation now where Domi wins the title, and that is such a great position to be in. And he's just stepped up his consistency. It's been Lewis Hamilton-esque. We always see Lewis Hamilton do it after the summer break normally. By the time it comes to Singapore, Lewis just wins everything. 3 races we've had since, well, Singapore, Russia and Japan. Domi has won every single one.
Yeah, he has, and it's been a fantastic form. He's on 3 in a row. I mean, that's just, form, anything or not. So, I mean, he's been doing really well. There's only a handful of times he's not finished on the podium. Every race he started, he has finished. He's been in all 18 of them. He's just been so consistent. And those 4 DNFs for Blizzard early on in the season, I mean, they are coming back now to bite him on the behind. And yeah, with 88 points, the difference going in towards the USA next week, we shall see what happens then. But it's a week away, Luke. We'll have to wait and see if Domi can be crowned champion next week.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. In the form he's in, you wouldn't bet against him, but you never know what could happen in Formula 1. As Moby Walker once put it, anything can happen, and it usually does. That is pretty much it then for this stream. If you want some more AOR Hype Energy League action, make sure to check out the Xbox One League that is live now from Japan, with Jess taking us through the action there. Thank you for Kieran for joining me in the commentary box. Thank you for the drivers for putting on a pretty good show in the end there. And thank you to our sponsors, Elgato, Hyper Energy, obviously, Thrustmaster, GT Omega, everyone who helps deliver the great racing that you've seen here tonight. Thank you all for watching so much, and we'll see you next time around for what could well be a crowning of a new champion, an inauguration, if anything you'd like to call it, in the USA. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.